we're going to have a second look at our story, Never Lose Hope. Today, though, we're going to focus on thinking about John's life. We'll do some predicting, but we're also comparing John's life to your life. So I'm only going to read a few extracts. John had been 9 years old and an orphan when he was tried and convicted at the Old Bailey in London for stealing a shirt and a few other items. The judge had read out the sentence, transportation to Sydney for 7 years. Now, imagine if you were 9, you were already an orphan, you were caught stealing a shirt and a few other items, and you were sentenced for 7 years, sent across the other side of the world to the new colony of New South Wales. How would you feel? Would you be frightened? Okay, John's story took up from there where he was working for carpenters. And one day he saw a bag of apples and without thinking, he took 2 apples and he ran. Why would he have taken 2 apples? Do you think it was because he was starving? If we read a bit further on, we get a few answers. He was wandering through the streets looking for food scraps when he felt dizzy. When John woke up, he was in someone's hut and a young woman with a kind face was feeding him from a warm bowl of soup. So imagine if you were so hungry, you collapsed in the street. Once again, you think about your life and compare it to John's. I wonder what would have happened if Isabella hadn't found him. Now this is when John joins Isabella's school. Isabella held up a book and showed all the children the letter A. They each had to say the letter out loud, and then Isabella showed them how to write it in the wet sand using a stick like a pencil. Think about the way you learn. Compare it to how John and the other children were learning. Do you use a stick? Do you kneel on the ground and try and write in wet sand? I'm sure the only time you do that is when you've been on a holiday to the beach. But this was how the first school in Australia worked. One day Isabella saw John still inside. He was drawing on one of the slates. When Isabella asked John what he was doing, he explained to her that it was a farm. It was a farm that he would own someday. So this tells you John, just like you and me, had hopes and dreams. I wonder if he managed to achieve that hope and dream. Now we know from the story that the soldiers turned up at the school a couple of times looking for a child. One day, without warning, the soldiers burst into the room. When John saw the soldiers, he jumped and tried to run, but they arrested him, took him away. Isabella tried to stop them, but they said they'd lock her up too if she got in their way. If you have a look here, the artist focused on getting us to look at John's feet. He's in shackles, he's got chains round his feet. Now, if you were 9 years old and that was done to you, you were arrested in class, dragged out, chained up, how would you feel? It's a little bit different to your life out in the playground, running around with your friends. All right. Now we know John's put in jail, and meanwhile Isabella's trying to do everything she can to help him. Down at the barracks, John lay curled up on the cold stone floor of his cell. He had been crying. but he held his one possession firmly in the palm of his hand. Then the soldiers came. Once again, if you were 9 and you were thrown in jail and you were lying on a cold stone floor and the only thing you owned fitted neatly in the palm of your hand, compare that to your life and all the things you own. As we know from the story, John ended up being put on the ship and taken to Norfolk Island. In the darkness of the ship's hold, John firmly gripped the stone. He felt the surface of the post, and on the post he began to scratch 3 simple words in the soft wood. Those 3 simple words: never lose hope. I wonder if John remembered those words every single day. I wonder if they stayed with him as he became an adult, just as those 3 simple words stayed with Isabella, his first teacher, all her life. I wonder if John managed to have all his dreams come true.